So good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all our beautiful viewers around the globe, and thank you for coming into another intimate conversation with us today. I hope you've got a cuppa ready to settle into this conversation. It's going to be a very interesting one with our guest today, Bobbie Richardson. Do you know what happens to me though, Bobbie, is because you've got an R for Richardson, I keep going Robbie.
Ah, right.
Switch it over. Silly me. But anyway, that's where we go. So welcome, Bobbie, and thank you for saying yes to coming into this, because I know your story is just incredible. You've got a lot of great experiences that you've had. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Mandy. Lovely to be here and share again. And I know, like, we've met each other a wee while ago. It's to meet you again. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to this. I really am. It's interesting conversation. I'll just introduce you to the viewers, and for those who don't know you, from 5, Bobbie remembers being visited by many different beings. Her gift to be able to physically see into other frequencies was passed down to her by her mother's side. She used this gift to learn how to raise her own vibration back to her authentic self and to gain much wisdom about the spiritual world and off-planet beings. Now she has been directed to channel messages to help guide humanity through this shift into high vibrations so that humanity can reconnect with Gaia, benevolent beings, and to remember their authentic self once again and thrive, stepping out of the survival game. She is also an artist, a singer-songwriter, an author-illustrator of 2 children's books, and a creator of many channeled inspirational videos. Now, just amazing. And I've seen some of your singing and videos, and oh my goodness, you've got such talent. And such a creative flow. I mean, you know, we are creative. So your creatorship is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that just carries on from previous lives when I was, creating lives, really, creating worlds, and I just, that's just how it's worked for me. But yeah, very feminine based, I suppose you'd call it, in the feminine side. And that's why the psychic abilities and the intuitive sides come up as well, because I allow that to have space. And I think that's what we're bringing into humanity's consciousness now, is to have an understanding that there's more empowerment through that feminine side.
Beautiful. Yeah, definitely that. And it's really gorgeous watching this divine feminine taking shape, on the planet, and what it's disrupting, because it's so disrupting everything. But Bobbie, one of the first questions that I ask everybody is, were you an aware child? And I know you were, but explain to us how things were for you when you were little and you were growing up in this wild world, and the things that you knew, saw, felt. Just give us an idea of you then.
Well, I was born into a family that's, had their own blockages and problems, and, certainly around love. And I think that's because I had to go down deep with them to figure out how to get out of that myself so that I could help guide others in the end. But as a child, I was so emotional because I could feel everyone's thoughts. I knew things that they were thinking, and also that I could see their potentials. And to try to face people off with their potentials when they're hiding from them, you often got backlashes from that, especially with your parents and so forth. But yeah, it was difficult, but I also sensed love from them as well. So, on one side there was no physical contact, but on the other side I could sense the love that they had for me. And in that, I sort of just navigated my way through. But they also had a lot of entities around them from previous generations and stuff, because we have a very strong feminine side, and so to pull that under or bring that into a place that was very limiting, we had to have these sort of entities that were really quite powerful. So I had to face off with all these entities that my parents didn't want to, and it was really interesting sometimes. Like I would go to sleep, I ended up going, growing up and living my own life and so forth, but I'd go back to them. And there was one occasion where my daughter and I both woke up the same night knowing that there was this entity in the house of my mum and dad's house. And I said the next morning, because I always ask, do you want me to get rid of this? Do you want me to do something about this? And Dad's like, if you think you should. And I'm like, no, Dad, don't push this on me. This is I'm asking you directly. Do you want me to or not? Mum's going, yes. Because she saw things as well. She saw things. So, and that's really what happened with me, is that I saw a lot of things that others couldn't see, because that's what our feminine side, the psychic side of my mother's side had that ability. And so that was passed down to me. And then I would wake up and see things from different dimensions, and they're giving me all this information. But also on the other side of that, I saw entities that were not so nice. So I've kind of experienced real horror movies sometimes in real time, in real life, it feels like.
And with Mum, it being passed through your mum to you, you could speak to her about it. Obviously, she was seeing the same things, or
no, she shut it down. She said that she didn't know about it. She shut it down in me until I left home. And when I left home and ended up in my own place, boom, all these visions started. I started seeing things, and they're telling me things. You shouldn't be with this person, and you should do the. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Because she had closed it off because she was afraid of it herself. So the first time I saw something, I was only 5 years old, and she's like, no, that's not how it goes, because I don't know about it. And I had heard of a couple of things that she's seen. But she just didn't want to accept it. It was too hard for her, because she's gone through many lives and been persecuted for that. And I knew that she'd even had dreams of being in the Holocaust and stuff like that. And I knew she'd been a witch in previous lives where she'd been persecuted. And so she just went, nah, that's not the way to go. We've got to do the logical world, because otherwise I'll get persecuted again. And totally understandable.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you sort of navigate through that when you didn't really have anyone supporting you? Because I know myself, I had the same sort of thing going on, and no one to talk to about it, and nobody to go to and say, oh, this is happening in my room every night, and all of that. There was sort of, it's a hard trip.
And it is, because you're made to look like a fool. And you're and then you're made to look weak, because it would be kind of upsetting in most times, and that sort of thing. So it was difficult. But once I'd left home, there was a transition of about 7 or 8 years where I was still seeing things and they were giving me messages, but I was like, not really wanting to listen to them. I was kind of trying to actually fight off a very demonic being that was, held our family bloodline into a hostage sort of situation. And it was actually female. And so, and me facing off with that gave me strength, gave me understanding. And then after a while, when I was 27, I then got a really profound message of they were trying to guide me on to think more positively, because I was just like everyone else in that very negative frame of mind and just down on myself. And then that's when they lured me to the beach, and I ended up digging up. They told me where to dig a gold bracelet up. And that gold bracelet, when I dug it up, I went, okay, I've now got to listen to this voice in my head that's telling me to think positively, because hello, they led me to treasure, right? So, yeah, to have that physical, tangible evidence of what they were telling me just moved me towards, but I constantly wanted more and more tangible evidence, because that's Virgo times 5. I'm pretty grounded.
Yes, I get it. Wow. And so that sort of that incident there really just sort of woke you up to, okay, this is really real, you know, because you trip out as to whether I'm just imagining this. Is this actually, you know, them speaking to me? Is it me, myself, telling myself a little story, you know? It's a crazy time, figuring it out.
Exactly how I felt. It was like constantly back and forth of, this is real, no, it's not, it's just me, constantly back and forth. But in all of that, they were still giving me messages on how to still my mind, how to navigate through my mind, and then how to start to clear enough space to be able to reap rewards coming in of premonitions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also who to help, who not to help. You sort of get this clarity that comes with taking the reins of your right hemisphere and telling your left hemisphere to shush for a while, because it doesn't know it all the answers. And that ended up giving me, there was like these moments, I think from 27 to 30, they were teaching me all about my mind. And then at 30, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go to Australia. But how am I going to go to Australia? My daughter at the time had, the courts had said she couldn't leave New Zealand. And of course, I wanted to take her with me, and fighting between the ex and all that sort of stuff, who had remarried and that sort of thing. So in the end, I had a dream of her high school that she was going to in Australia. And when I just took this massive plunge, I pre-bought the tickets. I didn't even have enough money to come here. I just absolutely trusted what was happening. And the money came like weeks before I ended up moving to Australia. And then when I got to Australia, I saw the high school that I dreamt of, and I knew she was going to live with me. So it was really it's really what humanity is going through now. We're learning to let go enough to be able to hear this clarity of the soul coming through, to be able to navigate us into a path that is more conducive to the love of ourselves and our authentic self. That's where we're going right now. And, through that, we have to go through all these mini deaths while we're still alive. I had to go through that as well, having horrible things happen to me as well, because it was my own mind that was leading me to that. I was creating that path through my own self-destruction of not wanting to listen to my soul. All of that happened to me as well. It's not the easiest, right? Us light workers are friggin' strong as we're bloody.
We are absolutely. And you sort of go through, when you look back though, Bobbie, you can see that every single thing was so perfectly instrumental in bringing to where you are right now, and the information, the wisdoms, the everything. So often, it's that question, would you change anything? And most people say no. Not actually, because look where I am now and look what I've learned from it. So it's hard to navigate through, though, I have to say, sometimes.
I think the only thing I would have changed is that I would have supported myself more. And that it's got nothing to do with changing outside me. It's got to do with changing who I am within me. But the thing is, even as a light worker, we're born into a body that has a DNA from a heritage of, that you're carrying all their blockages as well that they hadn't cleared. So even as a light worker, or whatever you want to call us, that comes straight from a higher dimension, we still have to navigate through those blockages and clear them properly so that they never come back. Because if you just superficially clear something, you don't know how to handle the next time it comes up. So it's like learning the ropes as you go of, okay, I've got this now. If it shows up again, I know how to clear it. So navigate through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're very much in communication with the off planet, as we call them, and the different races and, you know, clans, I suppose I call them. Tell us something about that. Like, what's some of your experiences that you've had with, you know, our star brothers and sisters?
So when I was getting a lot of visions at one stage, it was about 30. I'd moved to Australia and I just kept getting pelted with all these visions. I'm like, okay, they told me if I'm to take the reins, I have to ask the questions. And the question I asked at the time, because I was thinking, I don't know what questions you ask, was what's the true history of humanity? Because I didn't really believe what school was telling me was complete. And what they were saying, but I was prepared to empty my cup enough to say, well, that could be the truth. So if that's the truth, let it be. And if it's the truth that it's a crazy story, then let it be. If it's the truth that it's a boring story, let it be, you know, whatever. I'm just open to the truth. So that took me on a journey of 10 years where 4 different species ended up having communication with me and giving their side of the story. And they all had some piece of the puzzle to do with our true history. And that was, I started off with something that I had to empower myself with, which was the reptilians. If I hadn't gone through the reptilians first and found my true power, I probably wouldn't have been able to meet the others anyway. So you have to face off with that, the demons, so to speak, within your own mind of the power that you hadn't taken back. So they were the first ones, and their story was pretty much, you've got to do as we tell you.
Right. Okay. I was going to ask what their story was. Yep. And
then I recognized in humanity's consciousness, that's really what they were all about, is we've got the be all on this game, and you got to fall in line, and we've got your imagination hostage through programming and all that sort of stuff. But when I actually saw one of them coming towards me, like I woke up and saw one coming towards me, and when this is all physical to me, like he actually ended up next to me on my bed, trying to wrap his arm around my throat and trying to put some pills in me. And I remember thinking, he smelled really bad. I remember that. I remember going, stop. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to get out of this. This is not my story. This is not how this goes. And that just in itself is so empowering for many people and viewers that are out there. When we say, even if it's to do with something small, you know, if this isn't your story, don't take it on. And then you will always be gifted an opportunity out of it. And so what I saw was like all my chakras went into a ball of light between my sacral and my heart chakra and just burst out into one big light. And it's like I lifted my vibration away from theirs. And so they disappeared. And that meant that I realized I have the power within me to always raise my vibration out of them just by taking the reins to controlling myself and who I am and saying, this is not my story. And that's so valuable, because then whenever you go to meet somebody that is of benevolence, of higher frequency, you don't have the same fear anymore. And that's how you meet them, because you're meeting them at their true value of love. And so a great lesson they gave me. Yeah.
And what were the other 3? Like, what was how did
progression? So
thank you.
Went to the Pleiadians. So the Pleiadians were next, and they were telling me about more to do with Atlantis Lemuria stage. They were here as kind of cousins of humanity, just to help guide us through, but they also dripped and dragged into the logical side. When we went out of Atlantis, Lemuria, they were also the overseers of the so-called witches and wizards that held on to the magic of the feminine side, and how we can navigate our life through the inner self, and knowing that we have the ability to carve and create through light as well as through material. So there was a lot that they gave me in there when they visited me. And also to do with the pineal gland and that sort of thing, and how to open up our potential. And I have a lot to do with them, because also at the same time, I asked to meet someone of high integrity that was living, that could help me. And I ended up meeting this elder that was in Ohio, and her job was to specifically find what she called buffalo hearts that came from Pleiades, the souls that came straight from Pleiades, into now to be able to help navigate. So she gave me my name, Alana Wananahi, and that meant I carry the codes to helping guide people through to this new frequency. That was the turtle. And then she said Nanahi meant fairy, but I was creator of fairy. So I helped create or carve the path of the elementals to be able to be a go-between humanity's consciousness and Gaia or plant life, so that we could have a better communication as to what plants, medicines, and all that sort of stuff to use. So there's a lot more to learn when you go through the right hemisphere.
Yes, yeah.
And they were all to do with that feminine side of us. So there's a lot nicer and much more magic around there. Them, they came to me, put their forehead on my forehead, and started chanting Ra and syllables to help me waken up. And I literally woke up with my whole body shaking through this experience, because they were, but he was, that Pleiadian was actually someone that I taught previously in a previous life. And then I said, when I lose myself, you have to come back. When I've got risen my energy to a certain frequency, come back and help me raise even more. And so I was pretty excited to have that communication with him. So yeah, that was that, so much into that story too. Then after that, I had the Anunnakis come. So each of them had like a space of about 3 years where I was working with them. And the Anunnaki, full on, powerful, incredible beings. And the ones that I met were an understanding of their journey with humanity's consciousness, and teaching us all about agriculture, because we lost our ability to be telepathic, which is universal language. They brought in the written language and all that sort of stuff, and farming and all that sort of thing, so that we could navigate this physical world. But they now have an understanding that we are now moving into a more balanced situation, and bringing back that feminine, intuitive side of ourselves. So they are overseeing and seeing just how this all works out, because when we free ourselves, they free themselves from the fact that they kind of pulled us under, but they had to. It was just part of humanity's journey. Our consciousness's journey. And so they came, 4 beings in my room one night after I saw a UFO, and there's a lot of that story, but they have a very strong power around them, and they wanted to test me to see if I could handle their energy. So they gave me this silly little test, and it's not really silly, but anyway. They just, all I remember is cloaks. They had cloaked, and they had this curly black hair that was really long, and they were really tall. Like I had a 12-foot ceiling, and they at least reached 9 to 10 feet in my room. I don't know how 4 of them fitted in my room, but anyway. And I think they were also seen as the fallen angels. That all came up in that story as well. And there was a comet or something just trying to remember the name that came through at the same time, and a death of an Israeli leader that happened when they came through, and he was supposed to die when they came back. It was really interesting. I'll have to go back into my notes and get all that.
Yeah.
And then
So Anunnaki are not the reptilian.
No, they came to help humanity, to guide humanity when we lost our ability to be telepathic, to have the universal language. So, but reptilians and them sort of came in the same time, like they knew of each other and that sort of thing. And I think that they left, or they left the reptilians kind of in charge, or the draconians in charge, but they sort of, the whole game is meant to happen this way, though. Draconians are supposed to get out of power, because if they don't become this aggressive kind of grasping at us, we wouldn't have woken up. So we needed to have this real pressure against us to be able to understand something's wrong. And if you say something's wrong, then you're asking for the truth of what's to happen that brings us back into balance. So that had to happen. And then after that was the Lyrans. So the Lyrans were the creative beings of this sector of the universe. And it's like they came, if you see it from source energy's point of view, or God's point of view, or whatever you want to call it, prime creator's point of view, to be able to develop a species, they need friction, and they had created so much beauty, but they didn't have the friction within their bodies, become weak. And so what had happened, because that's like they got to the peak of their evolution, and so did the reptilians in their dimension. So it's like source energy carved a portal for them to go through into this dimension, and then the reptilians saw that they had all these beautiful planets and they wanted to be part of it. And then Lyrans are like, we don't know you. And then those reptilians are like, well, we're just going to blow up some of your planets because we're consumers. So they did. And that scattered the Lyrans everywhere to try to find breeding for them to improve their bodies and their stability in this reality. And so that navigated them to humanity. So they were part of our DNA evolution, as well as the reptilians. So we have the reptilians within it. We have the consumer and creator within us.
Right. Yes.
And so we are now, because Gaia, Earth, is one beautiful planet that can hold such diversity. And so she's, with that diversity that she can hold, we can be born. And so we're born with these two hemispheres that we now had to learn how to navigate through. So we learned how to navigate through the right hemisphere first, through Atlantis, Lemuria, and then the left side just recently, obviously, through just grasping outside of ourselves for our own worth, which it just brought us into going around in circles. And now when we make peace with both sides within us, it frees up all the stories that have come before us and all those beings that have come before us, because they realize they're part of the story, their part to play in the evolution of returning back to love, returning back to source energy. Because when source energy made its first split, it split like it was in these two hemispheres first, because it had to split to be able to experience itself. And then that split become fractions, many, many souls, many fractions. So we're all actually coming back through humanity's consciousness back to love itself. And so that's when humanity can go, okay, now I love every aspect of my life and who I am, and now I can carve a whole new path, complete, as mini godlike, really, on this stable, this physical world. So that was their lessons.
That's beautiful. And that's so where we're at, isn't it, right now?
Yes.
You know, moving out of the old stories and, you know, moving more into that divine feminine and our ability, our creative, intuitive, all of the stuff.
all of the stuff. Yeah, everything. Yeah, and seeing what you feel is right for you, because you are source energy. Source energy is always residing in you through your soul. That is source energy, is God itself. So it's like God's used as going on an adventure through you. So choose what you want to do, what gives you passion, which makes you feel good, and you can't go wrong then, because you're now leading yourself through love rather than through fear, which is only going to create a path of more anguish and fear and limitation anyway. Yeah, we're learning to navigate out of it. So yeah, the Lyrians were the creative beings that help shift all of that. They were funny when they came through. They actually, because of what they've gone through, they always had an exchange. If we give you information, then we need an exchange for you. And that's right. It was interesting. I'm like, I didn't realize the exchange was going to be that. Anyway, I won't tell you what it is, but anyway.
Yeah. Oh wow. So how do you see, like, now we're in this big movement, and I know, and I cannot for the life of me remember what year it was, but I had I want to say hundreds of thousands of reptilian come in, and they were pleading for help to be able to leave, because they didn't like what was going on. They didn't like that their leaders were taking them down this path when they really wanted to keep going and evolve and do more, be more love state than the other. And yeah, it was massive. It was massive.
Yeah. Interesting that you say that, because I actually had a full-on dream about being attacked by a reptilian. One's like 3 scratches across the side, which kind of happened to me, and then seeing a massive rock in front of me which split. And when that split happened, a mighty bang happened, and then I saw it was on a beach with all of these salamanders, and it was like all of those that had gone down the path into limitation ended up being born through a salamander, which was going to consume its babies and all that sort of stuff, because that's their reality, is so that. And then I was looking at all these hundreds of thousands of salamanders going, what do we do with them all? I remember that just reminding me of that. What do we do with them all? And they just wanted to find love within themselves as well. Everything, it doesn't matter who you are and what you've done. You can see a praying mantis that eats the head of the male, right? When it, everything has a consuming and a creative ability within itself, and everything ends up coming back to love, because that's who we are in the true essence of every living cell is love. So in the end, even they will return back to love, because it's just an experience that has to happen. It's built into everything, because that's what we are. And you can't deny what you already are in existence. You can push it aside, you can cover it with a blanket, you can say it doesn't exist, but it truly does. But in the end, we all just love going on this amazing journey. And in the end, it's to do with forgiving ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had an experience with a lady who was very reptilian. She was like, I learned to be able to identify them in this physical form. And she was very much that. And so she asked me for some healing work, and I went round to her place and put the table up and got her on the table, and 3 or 4 of her people stepped in. And I usually allow healing entities to come into my body and use my body to work through. And in this particular one, I just said to them, look, this is the pact, I'll help here and assist, but you're not stepping into my body. And I went into it, I decided that I was just going to be in my love state. I'm not going to go into fear. And I stood in there in this love space, and honestly, the beauty, like, they are love. They were love. It changed my whole idea and view around them,
Yeah.
I was in battle up. Come on, we got to battle up,
Yeah.
self-protect from these guys. But this was just so amazing. And I just, from that moment on, and I think that's why they came to me years later to assist them to leave. And it was massive. Like, I didn't say anything to anybody. I was like, the energies really changed around the house. What's going on? Tuned in, and here they were. There were just masses of them. And in that moment of recognizing this, my phone went landline then, we had the old landlines. And it was a friend from up north, and she said to me, Mandy, I just have to ring and tell you there's a heap of reptilian around your house. I was like, and confirmation, obviously, she broke down when I said to her, I've had a little talk with them and they want to leave and they'd like assistance. And she said, gosh, she said, I can just feel the love pouring from them to you, She was crying. She said, this is so beautiful. So yeah, it was huge. And I then realized that they were in the same position that we sort of were, didn't want to be carrying on with all of this. They wanted their freedom as well, and to release themselves from the bondage.
Come back.
It was very beautiful.
Into balance, isn't it? I do remember having conversation with a rainbow reptilian, and they're beautiful. And they're benevolent when they come through. Very pearly kind of a color, a pearly rainbow color. There's many. Like, we always like to compartmentalize with our lovely logical brain that's very limited in its awareness. Millions of different hybrids and beings out there. There's just so much. If anything, you should probably just, if you're going to segregate them, be in levels of awareness rather than what body they actually have, within themselves, because you could even do that with humans, right? There's many humans are still in that place where they're looking outside themselves for validation. And I mean, I'm only still just getting myself out of that in my own life, even though I went through that journey, I lost myself again. And they're like, here's the trainer wheels are taken off, you have to go get yourself. And like 10 years later, it's still not up to where it was before. So what's going on here? Yeah, well, it's going to keep going.
Like you swing, you're on track, everything's gung-ho, and it's all wonderful. And then next minute, you're back in that old again. And it's so frustrating sometimes. You think, what the heck? But there's still something else to, obviously, or we wouldn't be there.
No. Well, I even had a boyfriend that was very reptilian in his nature and over-consuming and narcissist and all that sort of stuff. I felt it straight off, but I made a conscious decision. Now I'm going to help this person if I can help this person. But that's because here I am projecting, helping somebody outside myself and not looking at my own self-validation of supporting who I am. See, so lessons learned all through this, isn't there? It's beautiful when you can see from above and look at them. In the end.
And knowing, like that, seeing from above when you're in that space again where you're losing your trainer wheels and, and you're back to that space again, but just knowing that it will pass and that there's some gold nugget you're just going to discover in there. And, you sort of, I don't wallow in it like I used to. I used to get real sort of wallowy in it, and poor me, I'm back here again, I'm gone,
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I'm like, am I I'm being a victim here, and I have to take the reins to shift my own thoughts. Nobody else can shift them but me. If someone shifted them outside of me, then they can take that away anyway. So I might as well do it myself because, But in the end, my team ended up taking me to potential of humanity, and that was beautiful. And so I actually woke up, I went to sleep, but I woke up in the dream in our future or future potential. And the first thing I noticed was no monkey mind, just clarity, just specifically being present in the moment. And that in itself is just so beautiful, because you sense everything through love. And so it's all, the colors are more vibrant, things that you tasted taste even more so. Everything was just more
Clearer.
it was clearer. And then I remember I was living on a house that was way up high, and you could live wherever you wanted to because you could teleport. So I had this communication of my friends coming to visit me, and I'm like, they're telling me, you're free now, kind of thing. Yeah, I'm free. Oh, boom, they're, at my front door because they could teleport. All these new abilities could be shining through humanity but it's not to say that, we want to be able to ground all of this into this reality now, so that we've got the abilities coming through if we want to use them. So we've got our freedom and our power back and our reins to carve and creating our own life. Nobody else will never go down that path again of allowing somebody else to control us ever again, because we know how to get ourselves out of it. And it's not from looking outside oneself, it's from looking at how you feel about who you are and the clarity of your own mind. So that was really beautiful, because it gave me a compass. When I woke up from that, I remember the feeling so much that I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going now. I know where home is. And I think that was the code that Parisha, the elder, was talking about, that I carry this code. It was like, I know what to feel when I am going home, but we have to do this without any outside influence. This isn't something that you can do through, visor of a virtual world or anything. It's that still looking outside yourself. This is an inner knowing of you connecting to back to your soul and living specifically in trust and faith through that love essence, that you're carving your path through love and you're trusting love again. And so that's how I've held that since the early 2000s. And so, I know how to get what I'm supposed to be moving towards. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. So, I don't even know where to go from here. What's sort of next? Do you see, like, what am I trying to say? There's so many things now that are really starting to come into play and like helping to clean up the planet, that sort of thing.
That's interesting. Yeah. But that was a different story that Gaia told me. I met her in another dream. She was a turtle, and she had a wound on her flipper, and she was going to give birth to this new frequency for humanity to lift up into. The frequency actually has always existed. It's just that humanity's consciousness needs to clear enough, balance enough to come into it. But in that year, when I was getting the dream, that she was showing it being birthed, and there wasn't much shoreline, and there was rubbish everywhere. And she ended up morphing into this beautiful blonde person that was way taller than me. And she's like, don't worry about the rubbish. The rubbish will clear when you clear your mind. It's just a reflection of the rubbish that's within ourselves. Yes. Like the destruction of so-called earth it's nothing to do with earth herself. Is always she has the ability to cleanse and everything, but humanity also has the ability to help cleanse her. And when we end up moving into these new frequencies, we could just touch the water and it's purified. Like we can do these things, that these abilities that we had back in Atlantis, Lemuria, start to come back. I mean, there's certain people that will have held these codes through the lineage of their bloodline, been persecuted, but then the starseeds will be born through them because they held them for so long that they can be born through them, and they will open that up for the the people that were born before them to reawaken their that side of themselves again, their gift again as well. Oh my God, I remember now, my soul was able to, you know, purify water or and that sort of thing. So it's not as bad as what they have been telling us. The earth in herself, like the program pulled over us, is it's all your fault. And you should exactly. And so we end up the guilt is the thing that literally dropped us out of being telepathic in the first part, having the universal language to begin with, communicate with higher benevolent beings as well, and earth and Gaia and plants and animals and everything. So with that fall, because of the guilt, there was a guilt that happened because we wanted to dabble in the physical world. We wanted to look outside ourselves and see what we could actually create physically. And so with that, there were scientists that ended up creating some bomb way back. And so that ended up, I think it actually blew up the planet that was between, that's now the astral belt, goes between Mars and Jupiter. I think it's something to do with that, but it was all meant to happen. And then the guilt brought us into such and looking outside ourselves as well, into that place where it brought in the reptilians and the Anunnaki and all of that and the fall and all of that to happen. So when we are programmed through the news at the moment with guilt, it's to reawaken, to let go of that, let go of it, because it's only bringing you into more fear and guilt again, and being a victim to your life. I let go of it and just see it for the story that it was. Source energy wouldn't have carved this path for humanity or been part of this with humanity if it didn't want to experience it. So we are actually on the right path, and just let go of the guilt and move towards it. Gaia herself said to me, dance, just dance with these new energies, enjoy, like lighten your load. And then what will happen is you will see things will be developed outside of you, even in the outside world, where magically, you know, a mold will come up that will clean up the plastic, and magically we will have the ability, you know, even if it is through science, to be able to clean the water and stuff. Or it could be somebody who actually can do that themselves through their feminine power. So we've got both things then that we can work with, but we have to lighten our load into that love frequency to be with Gaia in a higher level of consciousness with her.
Yes, I you know, the connection, of course, but speaking with, you know, Mother Earth, was Gaia for me. The name took a while before I could really click to that name, but you know, she was always the mother, and it was interesting one time just going in to talk with her again, and next minute she pops up as Lady Gaia. And she was the vivacious, stunning, you know, just lively, so lively. That's what I loved about it, was this energy of her. She was this vivacious young woman, you know, and she's saying, call me Lady Gaia now, you know, and the whole energy was about play. It was about love and joy and fun and all of that.
Yeah, we do.
And it was just such a change. It was beautiful.
Yeah, sorry if I interrupt. Sometimes I get
good
coming through as well. And I like to, it's like a conversation I have going on. We do get caught up in words, and that's that logical brain trying to control something again. But the words, it's just babble. It's kind of like if you saw a dog that had a whole heap of different types of barking, or blah, 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 whatever. It's just babble. That's why they called it the Tower of Babel, way back when.
Right,
From telepathy. So we've to move into these higher frequencies, when we move back into true connection, then we feel everything. So someone can say a word and you know that they're coming from their heart. And it could be a word that your logical brain's going to hate that word, but you know it's coming from their heart. That's more important. The feeling is more important than the actual word itself.
Absolutely.
We tend to fixate on the word. And so, and everyone has their choice of using, going wherever they want with their life. There is no right or wrong. Like as long as you're moving into that love rather than the fear game. I mean, it exists anyway. The fear game exists, but it's never going to get us anywhere anyway, is it?
And it's just so, once you get it, which, we know it can take a while. And like we were saying, we swing back and forth. We have longer time in the zone though, now than what we used to, for sure.
Yes.
But it's so easy and it's so fast to flick from the fear into the love, when, like you with the reptilian experience, and changing the frequency just moved you out of that experience because that's not the frequency anymore.
Yeah.
So it's you see how it works. We know how it works. It's reminding self all the time when we're in those spaces of going down the rabbit hole again, or into that fear and that mental space of story that doesn't make your body feel good.
Yes.
And it's just quickly flicking over.
True. And it is, the faster you can flick over, the more freedom you have to explore. So it's not that you're not going to, at this point, with everything in the whole environment being as it is, just all of a sudden be in this a higher frequency. You probably leave your body to go into that higher frequency. We want to ground heaven on earth. We want to bring the love, our soul, more into our bodies. Experience this reality, a separated reality, from a love perspective more, and that's going to change everything more. But they definitely taught me, it is the quicker that you can. It's like ice skating. The faster you can stop ice skating is the faster you can go. And so it's not anything to do with the speed of the person, but more to do with how fast can that person stop without smashing his brains out on a, sorry. So we have to learn how to stop our minds before we expand further. And that's like what you just said, the quicker that you can catch yourself and the quicker that you can go, nah, that's not my story. I'm not doing that one anymore in my head. I'm going to use my imagination to see something new happening or different happening. Or even what they brought me to in the end with one of the final lessons was to still my mind absolutely. And so in that space of zeroness, or just nothing existing within myself, everything existed and nothing existed all at the same time, which meant I could manifest in real time. I could manifest. That's when I was sitting on a huge field, and I went, oh, well, if I'm creator of my reality and I can still my mind enough, I should be able to manifest something, but it has to be something that the logical mind will agree with, because if your logical mind doesn't agree with it, it will sabotage you. So I chose that I would pick a 4-leaf clover, and I just sat with my eyes closed and sat down on that field and picked this 4-leaf clover without even looking at it. And there was no 4-leaf clovers. I'd never seen one in the field. So here I am looking at the face to face of this 4-leaf clover going, holy crap, we can shift. We are the creators of this experience, and we need to take responsibility back, and we need to take our own self-sufficiency back of our minds, body and soul, everything.
Yes. Absolutely. And it's like, I keep getting this picture of, we're stuck on the side of the road, we've just got a flat tire. And in that moment, you can go into, oh my God, this is always happening, and rah, 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 and this rant and annoyance and all the stuff that just, and so then you're stuck there on the side of the road even longer because nothing's coming your way that's going to help you out of that, because you're so convinced this is just, such a shit place. And
right? But that's the problem. You already started off with that journey going, the world's out to get me. And so if we start to turn this thought around of the world loves me, the world embraces me. It wants to support me. The outside reality wants to gift me whatever I desire. It's a nurturing world. Gaia is a nurturing, loving,
Yes.
beautiful being that wants to gift. That's why she gives free food, free water, free shelter. She gives free everything for us. It's only because we've been taken out of the natural system and then placed in a pyramid system of self-supporting only people that are at the top, and they're not even supporting themselves because they're coming from their lack, trying to control everyone underneath them because they don't feel like they are in control of themselves. So the more they have control of the outside world, the more they feel like they're going to reach that point, but they're never going to reach that point because they haven't looked at who they are within themselves to say everybody else is their own self-sufficient God going on a journey in this body, and I just need to step back and let them do their thing, because that is trusting this procedure, this whole beautiful navigation of nature.
Yes.
I channel that through.
Beautiful. No, that's right. That's totally it. And it is, in that moment where I was going to go with the car side of the road, no flat tires. In that moment, if we come out of that state and just allow the centering come into heart and just really change the storyline that we were running with. Instantly you got somebody stopping on the side of the road with you, offering help, and they've got a spare and blah blah blah. It just automatically is taken care of. It's so wonderful. And I've seen it in my own journeys, switching something over. I could see the path it was taken. I'm going, not of my consciousness anymore. And then next minute the whole picture just shifts itself, and it's just so fun. I love it.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is.
I love it. And then you go down and then you lose yourself again, and then you pick yourself back up. Hang on a minute. I am going down the wrong path again. Okay. And then you find, just even if you can't imagine that far like you can or I can, even if you just say to yourself, I'm not going to play the story in my head anymore. I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to focus on, something grateful that I can be grateful for. At least it shifts your energy enough for you not to be bringing that in on yourself anymore.
Yeah, totally. Gratitude's the key, eh? Like in many ways, it's really the key to switch quickly if you can, Yeah.
There's always something to be grateful for, because just you existing here means that source energy sees you as that value. And also, whatever you're speaking to yourself in a negative frame of mind, if you can turn that around and say to yourself, okay, if source energy or God itself is residing through me in this body, and I'm telling myself this, I'm actually telling God that. I'm actually telling source energy that. So maybe I should stop telling. So you wouldn't tell God that, you wouldn't tell source energy or prime creator that, would you? Or Gaia, or whoever that you saw is. Nothing is more powerful or less powerful than you. We are just love going on a journey in this body, and that's it. It's pretty basic, simple, but we have made such a complex story out of that basic, simple thing.
Yeah, we have. But looking at, and I mentioned this about the 13 codes of ascension, we're in the 12th, 13th now, and that we've learned the 12 by 12 is that we were learning to co-create together, but we didn't know that. We were doing it by default because we didn't actually understand that's what we were doing. So we were learning to create by error, really. And now we're starting to get that, yes, actually, we are doing that. And okay, so let's start creating something more in alignment with us instead of all this stuff that we've been doing, and we see it playing out now. There's just so many of everybody's creations playing out all at once now. It's like hugely, there's just so much matter. And everybody's, mattering about it. They're all stuck in that, sort of thing, a lot of people. But it's that shift over. you know, and moving out of that. But yeah, it's great. It's great stuff.
You say 12 and 13. They gave me this message that 12 is always made in separation with 2 6s, 3 4s. You know, we've got a separation code happening there. But 13 is a prime number. It comes back to oneness, and that's why
what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Us with the 13 months and so forth. So to bring us back into alignment with a natural order of things is to bring back the 13 moons as our navigation of time and stuff like that. Also, they brought in the moon and its proximity to Earth makes a big difference. And that it's actually they see it as a hollow thing, and that it was pulled into a certain place so that humanity would end up losing themselves enough to be able to only work with the logical mind, so that we didn't end up mucking up the fifth and more dimensions and higher spaces, higher frequencies. But most souls actually reside in those higher frequencies because that's more conducive to the love that they are. So when we actually awaken ourselves out of this, we will all of a sudden realize, oh my God, there are other beings that are in higher frequencies. All of a sudden life becomes really expansive because there's a lot more souls residing in those other beings of higher frequencies. Where we are feeling like we're all alone because we're literally locked into this place of limitation, so that we could just play around with the matches, kind of speak, like a baby with matches kind of thing, trying to figure out how to light our own way.
Yeah. Oh my goodness me. So are there any sort of, like, nobody knows, we don't really know what's going to happen next, you know, we're sort of in this now where we're, for me anyway, that's how I feel.
That's the fun of it, right? That's the fun of it. Like we're showing 2020, we were just entering the vortex of this Taurus energy of source energy going on this journey, or humanity's consciousness going on a journey. We went from love out, and then we did all the Atlantis, Lemuria, and then we're coming back to all the logical side of ourselves. And now we're just entering, that was 2020 in March. And then they showed me at the center was love. And we're going through the eye of the needle of love. So when we do that, we come out the other side of finding balance within ourselves, opening up the pineal gland. Oh my God, the magic is going to be so cool. And we're going to carve this whole new path. But like you said, nobody knows exactly how this is going to play out, because we now have this whole new playground that source energy can play in through us. But we're more aware of it now. We just, everything is source energy, but they're not aware of it. But we are aware of it. So it's so interesting how this is going to unfold. But definitely they showed me years ago the crumbling of the society that's kept us in only looking outside ourselves to create, or only creating things outside ourselves.
Yeah. And that part there, you know, I know you know that I teach, you know, to heal body without medication and surgeries and stuff like that. But the technologies that are coming through now, you know, and everybody's on this hype around the new medical beds that are coming in that are healing bodies. And, you know, for me, I get it. And I know that there's a huge amount of humanity that really needs these and needs something quick. And so I get that, but me, I feel like it's taking again us outside of, to look for something else outside of self that's going to fix this and here. And for me, that's a whole nother track that I can see is going to be taking people away from self again. And it's just, Anyway.
Anything outside ourselves that's been created or fed to us by the powers to be, sort of thing, it's because they had to match the frequency that already resided within us. So when telepathy was something that we could raise our level to, they brought in telephones so they could still control us, because it's a mechanism outside of us that they can control. same with the med beds and stuff like that. It's not to say that you can't use them if you wanted to, and that would never ever stop anyone's journey, because that is sort of exploring that, right? But in the end, even if you went on a med bed, if you hadn't found balance within yourself anyway, you will go back to the same things happening, and slowly, progressively, that you'll end up with the same tension in your body as what you did before you went. So it's a band-aid rather than an actual realization, oh my God, I can fix myself, I can heal myself, thyself, by knowing thyself.
Yes.
And that is more important than grasping for some device outside of you that is only fleeting in the example of that can be taken away, and all of a sudden you don't have the med bed anymore to heal you, which means that all of a sudden you're vulnerable to somebody saying, I need $1 million for you to use that, that sort of thing.
Yes.
You don't feel worthy of it because you never felt worthy to begin with to be healed. So it's all to do with coming back to self and saying, I feel worthy of being healed within myself. Yeah.
Yes. So that's another little interesting avenue that everyone's taking off on, and it's like, just hold up and think about the consequences of that, even, in the long term, and how we can get addicted to something, these devices and things that we've already got,
Yeah. And it's everything within us. That's why when they took me to the potential of humanity, it was a stillness within my brain, and my imagination holds a lot of codes. Everyone's imagination holds a lot of codes of our previous lives. So those previous lives have, then you can grab threads of that imagination and go, can I ground this? Yes, I can, because my imagination, through the stillness of myself, will explore that avenue or that energy of me moving towards that potential future. And so you end up incrementally going towards that future through just understanding that love is driving you that way.
Yes.
They are really coming through at the moment. I'm using words I wouldn't normally use.
That's wonderful. Cool.
So we definitely have all this empowerment within us. We've just been held hostage by looking outside ourselves for things. And that's when, no one can even support, even your partners, anyone. No one can completely support you but you, because that partner can move away, and then you're left with the same empty feeling that you had before they came, or even worse, because you even feel less than. So if you say, okay, I see I've got my beautiful partner there, but he's on his own journey of learning to support himself, I've got to take responsibility for what thoughts come through my mind, how I'm going to understand that my body will heal as I start to relax into love, moving towards what I passionately desire, allowing my soul to come through, be heard, and then my outside experience, which moves in a slower momentum, will catch up to me. It will catch up. But you cannot move that slower outside momentum. It's like pushing a train that's already going towards something. You can't move it quickly. So everybody who's saying, I want to save the world, and then they go out and they donate to something, they don't feel like they've really done anything, because they've just done something outside themselves. But if they turned around and said, within myself, I'm going to find my own passion, my own light, my own love, and I'm going to show other people that we can be happy in this world. And that means that they start to strive for happiness as well. So others will start to strive for that.
Yes, it is. It's a ripple, eh?
It's a ripple.
Absolutely. And that was something that I recognized years ago with myself, that I was still holding back, and in my leadership role as such, being a way shower in a sense. And it was like, if you don't step into this, then you're not doing the best for everyone.
Not honoring
myself.
I totally get you. Exactly. We, like they say, we're really afraid of our light or our power that we have. And if you can imagine standing in front of you, and the viewers imagine standing in front of you, the most powerful being ever. If you can imagine it, it is you, it is within you. So that is you as a reflection. That's where your guiding light should be shone towards. And it's I know that we end up stopping ourselves through this because we are constantly worrying about how we're going to be seen in this world. But this world is already breaking up. Things are already falling apart. This is a great advantage for people to step into their power.
Absolutely. It's the best time ever. You know, everything's crazy out there. Just join in. Be your crazy self, and let it be, you know, just go for it. Yeah.
Be your crazy authentic self. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Love it.
Beautiful. Oh, honestly, is there anything else that you feel we should all know, listen to?
To bring in, I think that's pretty much, I can't believe how much is coming through me at the moment. But I have just upped myself recently, like just recently, and taking back that power of myself. So beautiful. Just in the fact that I've done that means that this is the energy to do it. Yeah. This is an absolute, and the amount of rewards that are coming for those that do the inner work is so beautiful, because you no longer look for abundance in the tangible money side of things. You have the abundance in every step that you move through earth. Everything that you take is already self-supporting, and the universe bends to your will. It wants you to have your desires. It wants you to have everything that you love, and it will show you that path, and you will be so open to it because you're no longer holding on to that negative connotation of thinking that you're a limited being anymore. We are grandiose, we are magnificent, and that's what we should be shining now. Yeah. So that's a message from them.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. And it is so how it is right now. It is time to step in. And I think, you know, we were just talking about, I've started running a centre again. And, you know, and just seeing that people are really ready to come back to in-person gatherings, you know, they really want to.
Happen.
And I've gone off where I was heading with that.
And just to tell the viewers, don't grasp at things. Don't try to force something to be, my passion is, so I'm going to make this.
Yes.
So just keep on coming back to, am I feeling serene and happy about myself as I do this? It could be that you need to pull yourself away from what you're doing just to go do a jigsaw puzzle or do something else and feel light about yourself again. And then all of a sudden you'll be sparked to actually do what you wanted to do in the first place, but from a place of love. So if you start to feel tension or anxiety, then pull back and just come back into taking a deep breath and saying, you know what, at this moment, I just need to chill and just do whatever I need to do, cook something, make myself feel happy, ground myself, go out and see the flowers or whatever. And then it's incredible how you will then align yourself with your deepest passions anyway, but from love. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Bobbie, it's been lovely to talk with you and chat with you. Absolutely lovely. And I know there's just, and your team, beautiful. And I know there's just so much more that you could be sharing with us. And I get that. We'll get you on again at some point later on down the track. But yeah, lovely following you and watching and seeing everything start opening, really building up for you. It's great. I just love that. So yeah, well done you and your team. It's amazing.
I think since I saw you last, I ended up manifesting house of my dreams at the moment, a beautiful man, everything that I asked for, I got.
It's so great. I love it. I've just loved watching your journey. It's just incredible. And it just, you know, it's an example to those too watching you, you know, that this is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Yeah. And I don't want to be the only one. I want to, you know, everyone has their own light, and I'm no better than anyone else. It's just that someone had to make the first jump.
Exactly. That's all it is. For sure. Oh, well, that's wonderful. You take great care, Bobbie, and thank you again for coming in. It's been an absolute honour and beautiful pleasure,
Thanks.
and enjoyed every moment. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mandy.